Hey, welcome to the brand new Bums and the Bleachers podcast, brought to you by our friends over at the Chicago Sports Bums. I am Jeremy Sosa alongside Mike Prasmaster Presnowski. Mike, how's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm real excited to get this all started. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing
shoot,
awesome,
I'm
man.
sorry. Are we not using government names here? I'm sorry. I just realized that.
We can use government names. That's totally fine. No, I'm for it. But no, I'm excited, man. I feel like this is the perfect time to launch this podcast. We actually obviously are coming off a really hot streak. Watching our team from the Northside actually pick up some pace after the All-Star break, starting out 1-4, right out the gate, and just reeling them off, man. So, how are you feeling about the streak we had going on, prior to today, obviously?
I am hyped, man. I am real hyped. I mean, especially with with not only the fact that the Cubs are on their own hot streak and have clawed their way back into the division race, but the fact that what little hope that the Cardinals had was basically killed in the last two against us. So, to kill towards one stone it's a great feeling. Oh, John, did I lose there?
Absolutely. I'm still here, man. No, I agree. And
Okay.
I think with the Cardinals too, we heard a lot of chatter from that fan base, that, watch after the All-Star break, we're going to go on that streak and we're going to be right back in it. And you're right, man. We thwarted every opportunity and chance that they had to get back into this division, even at, 7 or 10 out, whatever they were at that point. And obviously beating St. Louis is always great. They've been beating on us for so many years. So to really kind of just watch them go in full sell mode during this series has been fun. Watching them, trade off Jordan
during
Hicks
this game, really.
Yeah, Montgomery was right after the game. I mean, they just really started selling some pieces. So it's been a lot of fun. And obviously that puts us in a position that we are not selling. We are buyers. So that's a new thing for us, right? Especially over the last few years, we've been consistently sellers, and this year we're not.
Yeah. After 2 years, this store is officially closed. Do not come looking for a Cody Bellinger or a Marcus Stroman. You will not find it here, folks.
Well, it actually, it's interesting. And I actually wanted to talk to you about this too. With the Cubs not selling this, it's such a weird spot that they're in too, right? Because they are in a position where it's not a go all in mode team yet, right? This is obviously hopefully just the scratching the beginning of, the surface of everything. We know we have a deep farm. We've got guys that are going to be coming up, up the next few years. We're not one or two players away like we were in 2016, where they pushed all their chips in to get a Chapman, so it's a weird spot that we're in, because they could potentially look to maybe even trade Stroman to pick up, some other pieces, because we have seen some starters kind of come along, like Hayden Wisniewski and, Justin Steele's been great, and maybe could be a number one. Kyle Hendricks pitched another, better than a quality start, went 7 innings today, even though he couldn't get any run support. But I think they're in a position now. It's going to be really, really interesting to see if maybe they still sell pieces like Stroman, because he might drop off after, the second half of the year. He's been obviously off to a slower start after the All-Star game. So what are your thoughts there?
Possibly. I mean, look, we're coming up on the trade deadline right away. Like we're diving right into this. The deadline is tomorrow. So whatever decisions the Cubs need to make, they need to make them
Tuesday.
ASAP.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Oh, they pushed it back
Yeah.
to the 1st. That's right. Duh.
Yeah.
I'm so used to it always being on the 31st.
I know.
But okay, so Tuesday. But I mean, like Stroman, there was so much. It's weird that he's seemingly gotten worse as the Cubs have gotten better. And maybe you have a little bit of second thoughts about re-signing him for next year, or maybe you're now he's kind of priced himself into what you want. Senor. Yeah, we'll take an Eloy. Yeah, thank you very much. We could use a DH. But the like, I guess at this point, does he really have? Of course, he would still have a market, but thank you, Tony, for that breaking news. Grichuk and Crone heading to the Angels.
Wow.
Yeah, they're. I mean, everyone thought they would be selling off, but I mean, we'll get to league wide stuff in a little bit here, but
Yeah, for
the
sure.
the market for Stro it might have gone a little bit with these stars. I mean, pitchers can be finicky. Like he could rebound a little bit here. I don't think they would. I don't think at this point they would choose to move off from him if he, they wouldn't choose to move off from him at this point when his value has decreased. Ryan, answer your question.
Oh no, looks like we lost Mike, but I can take that question real quick. I think Stro is coming up on his 32. I think he's 32, coming up on his 33rd year of life. So he's he's a little bit older, and I think a lot of the concern there was we know that he's a little bit smaller. Maybe he's not going to age as well as some of those crafty lefties that we've seen over the years. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see, what they do with him. Press got that Telemundo internet. Love that. He's got Southside Bums internet going on right now.
Shoot.
There we go.
Maybe it wasn't meant to. Oh, I'm back. Can you hear me? Okay.
Marquee Wi-Fi sucks. Yeah, Marquee is still a mess right now. And
doing this off my phone, guys. Yep, Marquee Wi-Fi does suck, actually, Senor.
We're gonna have to say that for a different show, but
oh boy, John. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into the big news.
It's that someone has a problem with there being
lost Prazmaster again. Well, I'm gonna keep it going. We've got big news here. Belly is Leonardo DiCaprio of the Cubs now. He's not fucking going anywhere. So that's some huge news that we're obviously really excited about. knowing that Belly.
There we go.
Back again.
Sorry about that.
No worries, man.
Difficulties. I'm doing this off my phone's internet. Normally it's pretty strong. When we recorded last week, it was strong. There were no issues, but for whatever reason there is today. First time for everything. So
yeah, right. It's the first show. So I mean, something's gotta happen. But I was actually just starting to go into the next topic, talking about Belly, being the DiCaprio of the Cubs. He's not going anywhere. They're not trading him. They've announced that they're not, they're not going to move on from him. They're telling teams that he is going to be a Cub. So obviously really excited about that.
Yeah, not going anywhere. I hope this is the start of them actually taking some serious negotiations into making him a Cub long term. I mean, again, we talked about it last week. The first base for the Cubs has been a problem all year. They've been having a rotating cast of freaking Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer, and we saw Matt Mervis a little bit
Jesus, senor. I'm sorry. I'm losing it with this chat. Thank you for understanding, Baloney. But yeah, I mean, like he solidified first base when he was in LA. He brings a tall presence there, which we haven't really seen since Anthony Rizzo. He's a good glove over at first base.
Great
So
glove.
yeah, that we need a guy like him going forward at first base. I mean, probably not going to be center field if he stays long term because we got PCA coming up. So exactly, like there's no Bellinger.
Yeah, who's not going to the Rangers right now? It's like
I'm
they're
still
just
getting
scooping
used
up
to this.
everybody.
I'm sorry if I'm getting too distracted by the chat and everything.
No, so here's the thing with Bellinger, and like I've seen like a lot of like Cubs fans, clamoring like, I've seen a mix. Like we need to sign Cody long term. We need to we need to keep him around. And then I've seen a lot of fans actually say like, well, you're going to clog up center field by by not having having Cody around. So I think, yes, it's going to be tough to extend a Cody Bellinger. He's played himself into a contract that probably will be right around 7 years, 200 million. If I had to guess, we know that Scott Boras is his agent, but I think we said exactly. It like this guy he could play first base. He could play a gold glove first base. He's still young. He fits within the timeline that they're trying to build this team. So I think what is he going to be 28, I think, or is he 28 right now, or he's going to be 28? He still fits within
28, I believe.
Yeah, he fits within this timeline. You play him at first. You put Pete Crow Armstrong, as soon as hopefully next year if he's ready to go. I mean, he's been raking in the farm all year. I mean, he's just been consistently hot. So thank you.
Fair enough, Tennessee. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten called up to Iowa yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we saw Morel come from AA. We saw Amaya come from AA. So I don't think AAA is necessarily like a must for some of these like prospects to like, they have to go to AAA to get to the big leagues. So I think that if you put him at first, you can put, Pete and center hopefully next year, if that's the case, if he comes up next year. And if he doesn't work out, because the thing is, like, we always talk about prospects. We always talk about the farm system. These are not guarantees, right? These are prospects. No. You have a proven player, major league player, that he looks like, by all accounts, this is healthy Cody Bellinger, right? And I think like we knew the last couple of years when he had some tough years with LA, he wasn't healthy. He had back problems. He had some, I think some like leg issues going on. I think he had some knee things. He had I think he had a shoulder injury as well too.
So he was struggling to stay on the field, and it does also help that this year, with no shift there. God damn it, Alexis. With no shift there, I mean, that's helped him a lot too. That a lot of the balls that he was hitting right up the middle are actually going for hits now. I think I heard on I don't know if you listen to Baseball is Dead. It's a podcast that Jared Carabas hosts, but one of the guys on there was saying like, seems like just about every like underlying hitting metric with Cody Bellinger has seemingly stayed the same. But I mean, he's at a more hitter friendly park in at Wrigley than he was in LA. Yep. So, I mean, it feels like this is the right fit for him. And, the Cubs have made it clear they want to keep him, and hopefully they can get a deal done with him between now and sometime in the offseason.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple things here too. You have to show equity with the fans that they're going to go out and spend money for guys that actually fit what the Cubs are trying to do, right? They built this team around defense. We'll obviously get to talking about the Cardinal series, and why that was so important. But I think this comment here, the Cubs need to go get Shohei Ohtani, and I think we can talk about that. Everyone's going to be talking about going after Shohei, right? He is by far the best player in baseball ever. He's the GOAT, So I think, if you're going to try to go out and get a player like Shohei, it's come from his camp that he knows he's going to get paid, right? We know that it's going to be anywhere from $600 to $700 million contract. He's going to get that anywhere. Everywhere he goes, he's going to get the red carpet, right? Like he's going to get tickets, to games for his family. He's going to get flights everywhere, for his family. Like he's going to get everything. So if every team's going to do that, you've got to do things that are going to separate yourself from the pack. And I think for the Cubs, they have to prove that, we are going to do what the Angels did not. The Angels are waiting till now to show equity, to say, hey, we're going to try to build around you. It's too fucking late. Like you wasted how many years of Trout's prime and did nothing for him, right? You signed an aging Albert Pujols as the guy that was supposed to be his Robin, and it obviously just didn't work. So, I mean, I think for Shohei, if he's going to leave LA and he's going to sign with another team, he wants to win, and he's still young enough. He's in his prime. He wants to win. And I think if we can prove that we have a winning ball club, we have a farm system deep enough that we can supplement guys every single year, because we don't have a top heavy farm system right now. We don't have a guy that's like an Ellie Dela Cruz, right? We don't have anybody like that, but our system is just so deep with talent across the board that we can replenish players as it kind of goes, kind of similar to what the Dodgers have done over the years, or Houston, hopefully, right. But I think that would build equity to say, like, hey, come sign with us. We're going to sign Cody to play with you. You're both, they're both pretty much the same age, can grow together, play together. We've got Nico signed for 3 more years. We've got Ian Happ signed for 3 more years at a young age. We've got Swanson young, playing for another 5-6 years with us. So I think it's going to be important that they actually try to show some face and sign like a Cody Bellinger.
Yeah. Tony, my buddy, to answer your question, it's a mutual option for Bellinger, but obviously both sides have to accept it. So, they're not, if they're going to bring him back next year, it's not just going to be for that 1-year option. He's more than earned the paycheck, and I would hope the Cubs are willing to actually pony up and pay it to him.
Well, we had our favorite Bruce Levine reporting. I can't stand Bruce Levine, but he's reporting by all accounts that the Cubs they're in on Shohei. He says that the team is ready to spend. They know what they're going to have to spend going in, that they're ready to make that plunge. So if that's true, great. But again, you got to build around the guy. You can't just do the same thing what the Angels did and just waste him. So,
right.
We know that Shohei's not really going anywhere now. They've decided to keep him and make a run. So he's not going to be available. And I don't think the Cubs are really going to trade the entire farm firm this year anyways. But with the trade deadline coming up, what do you want to see? What do you want to see us do? Because I don't think we're going to actually trade like top prospects for it. Because like I said, we're not 1 or 2 pieces away, but it's a winnable division. Milwaukee has some problems with offense. Cincinnati has problems with pitching. I think that they're going to probably be who they are, 500 club rest of the way. That is what it may look like. So the Cubs have a real chance of overtaking this division. But what do you want to see the Cubs add?
Well, the pieces I'd like to see them are mainly hitting. I want I would really love for them to target a guy that used to be in their system and is tearing it up in Washington this year, in Jeimer Candelario. Cubs are kind of scratching by at third base right now. They've made it work with Nick Madrigal. They've made it work, with patching it together with Miles Masterboni and Patrick Wisdom. But, get a solidified player in there, a guy who has good bat to ball skills like Candelario has, that the Cubs admittedly gave up on a little too early. And, they can right that wrong in a big way.
Yeah, I think he actually fits what they need to do, right? Because I think like for them, there's not a lot of open positions, I guess, that makes sense, where you can really put a lot of guys. Because I think right field's going to be Seiya, left field is going to be Happ. Those guys are signed long term. You're not moving them.
Mm-hmm.
Center field has been a combination between Talkman, who's played really well, and Cody Bellinger.
We'll get to him later.
Yeah, they both played great defense, so I think like up the middle, like that those 2 guys are going to split that time. So you're not going out and getting outfielders. Where our holes are and where I think we're weakest are corner infield, right? Like it's great when Bellinger's there, but if he's not, like Trey Mancini hasn't really worked super well all year. We obviously already dumped Hosmer at the beginning of the year, which probably shouldn't have been signed to begin with. Mm-hmm. And third base has been kind of a big gaping hole. And, we know Nick Madrigal has come back and played a little healthy, but I don't think Madrigal's the answer at third base either long term, or even just for this year. He's played pretty well. He's starting to hit better, but defensively,
he has looked pretty good. He has looked pretty good since his initial send down to Iowa, but I mean, obviously you want a guy there that actually can flash some power, and you're not getting that from Nick Madrigal. So
Yeah.
yeah, go get yourself a big bat that profiles better at third base.
Yeah, and I think that he provides a little bit of slug, which is where we've obviously, we've been a little bit short on slug this year. I think you talked about it, great, bat to ball skills from this team up and down the lineup. They've basically built this team on defense, pitching, and contact, which has been awesome. And it's different than what the Cubs were doing previously when we made those playoff runs where it was launch angle and home runs. And, we saw how that fizzled out over the years, right? Like when they couldn't hit home runs, they weren't scoring, and the offense was quote unquote broken. Right. So, this offense has been pretty good for the most part. I think, you and I kind of talked about it, since the All-Star break, they've been really hot offensively. Runs per game has gone up, and it's honestly been pretty consistent. They're the only team in the National League Central that has a positive run differential. So I think it's going to be interesting to add a little bit more slug there. Candelario actually fits that. He's played above average third base. I think I was looking at it too. He's his defensive runs saved this year are +6, if I'm not mistaken.
Love to see that.
Or outs above replacement. I can't remember which one it was, but it's +6 compared to last year's -6. And a lot of it they were saying has to do with the banning of the shift or, the movement of the shift. Like he's played a better third base. So I think he still fits into what they're trying to do defensively. He could be a middle of the order guy, a 5th or 6th hitter. I think, what does he have, about 15, 16 home runs this year, maybe?
16 last time I checked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than,
and to do that with like no protection in the lineup either around, the dead ass Washington Nationals.
Yeah. It's like 15 or 16 more than Nick Madrigal has. And, we know that Patrick Wisdom also is not necessarily going to be the guy either. He could definitely have his hot streaks, but once he goes cold, he goes cold. So not a fan of Wizzy these days.
It's unfortunate with Wisdom too, because he did give us, a representative performance at third base and at the plate over these last couple of years. But, it's just sad that, like, right when the Cubs find themselves back into being competitive again, that he's kind of fallen off the table.
Yeah. And thankfully everyone's picked it up because we haven't really noticed it. Because, I mean, if they were struggling and he was out there, we would have noticed more. But, thinking through the trade deadline, obviously we've seen a lot of moves across the league. Any ones that have stuck out to you that you're just been like shocked at or just think it was a great move? I mean, we saw LA made some moves for some Sox players. We saw the Angels make some moves for some Sox players. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I mean, we hinted at it earlier in talking about, the Angels with Ohtani. I don't know that it's necessarily a good move because there's no guarantee that they're going to even make a wild card spot, but at least they're somewhat committing towards like making one last push with Ohtani and Trout by going out and getting Lucas Giolito from the White Sox. I mean, you add another solidified pitcher to that rotation, that brings them up to 2. So good job them. Pitching's a little important, guys. I mean, it's glad you guys finally got the memo on that.
It took them like 12 years.
Right, exactly. But I mean, that takes Ohtani off the table to be sold. What I do find kind of fascinating now is that, like, they're in this division with Houston and Texas making a big move last night, getting Max Scherzer. Like,
yeah,
that, that's it hadn't worked out for him in New York year 2 there. I also do kind of find it hilarious that, because one former Mets ace didn't work out so well for the Rangers, they're going after another former Mets ace in Scherzer. I mean, but hey, the Rangers are right in the thick of it. They're still leading the AL West, and they're trying to shore up that team. So, more power to them. Who was it from the Cardinals they got today? Was it Hicks or was it?
Jordan. No, Jordan Hicks went to Toronto, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, Jordan Montgomery is the one that went to.
Yeah,
knew it was some guy named Jordan from the Cardinals. But so yeah, Texas looks like the most improved team thus far, going into the last few days of the trade deadline. I do kind of question what the Dodgers are doing, getting Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly from the White Sox when those two guys have not really looked good at all for like almost a year now. Like
I don't. It does. Those moves don't bother me, and I'll tell you why. I think guys like Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly have had one foot out the door for the better portion of like once they were out of this division, like 10 games, 10 games back, or and they're 15 games, below 500, 20 games below 500. I think we were hearing reports coming out of like the White Sox clubhouse that guys were already asking like, hey, where am I going? Where are we going to be next? Like I think they had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, knowing that, hey, this is a lost season. We're most likely going to get traded. Guys that are in the last years of their contract or, short-term deals, like they knew that they were out. And I think the Dodgers have a knack of just, man, they just have a knack of getting guys in, implementing them into that culture and that system, and they just start rolling. I mean, we saw, Joe Kelly already was pumping gas today, right out the gate. So I don't think it's a terrible move for them. I think it was questionable, but I think for them, they're an organization I trust for making those moves.
That is a good point. I didn't factor that in. And I mean, we did see it ourselves earlier this year when the Dodgers came to town in April and they somehow made Jason Hayward into a somewhat respectable hitter. So yeah, it feels like anytime you just put on that Dodger blue that, you take get a little extra pep in your step and, go back to your old self. So yeah, I guess that could work out. He is a gamer. He absolutely is. Like he kind of reminds me of John Lester in a way that like, sometimes his stats might not always be great, but like he is a guy that you want out there when the game is Sammy Davis, Christ. He's a guy that, he's been there on the mound before in big game situations. So like could elevate his game in October when the Dodgers do inevitably make it.
Yeah. Any other trades
that you? It's not my internet this time, folks. Now it's John. Anyways, sticking with the trade deadline. I mean, so we were talking about Stroman a little bit earlier. He more than likely isn't leaving the Cubs at all. John, do I got you?
Yeah, I'm still here, man.
Uh-oh. More technical difficulties, folks. I'm sorry. But yeah. Let me try refreshing this.
I don't know if that's true, but I don't know if Stroman does hate Italians. Yeah, I think Stroman.
I just gonna make the point that now that we've seen what a package looks like for an type pitcher in Giolito, that was probably about the package that you could have come to expect to see the Cubs maybe get from us.
Oh, lost Mike again, man. Got to get him some new internet. But yeah, no, I think like I said, Stroman. I think Mike's right. I don't think we're getting rid of Stroman. I think he's going to be around. He's got an option. I think at the end of the year to a player option, so he can sign back on. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of year he has the rest of the year, to see where he lands, if he's going to be around long term.
John, I got you.
I'm here, man. I think your Wi-Fi is choppy.
The thing is, I'm not doing this off Wi-Fi. This is my phone internet. And again, we recorded last week, and there were no problems with it then. I have no idea what the hell is going on this time around. Anyways.
Well, let's jump into the St. Louis series.
I mean, I'll just filibuster here for now. Oh, there we go. Now we got John back. Sorry about it, John. I don't know what that's happening. I swear, this is my phone internet, and this is the same way I did this when we recorded last week. I don't know what's going on today, but
yeah, it's a little choppy on my end for you, but We'll
So we're on
we'll
to
pause
the
it.
Michaelis mishap.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it was on Friday night, or what? No, was it Friday or Thursday night? No, yeah, Thursday night. Thursday night, game one of the Cardinals series. Ian Happ gets hit by a pitch, or actually wind it back a little bit, on his back.
Man, lost Mike again. But to kind of jump into what Mike was saying is, Ian Happ hit Wilson Contreras. There we go. You back?
Okay. Well, looks like I'm getting told by the powers that be that I got to change things up here. So,
Yeah.
anyways, a segment that you might have seen on the Bumcast before is they like to do their most valuable bums and bums of the week to, cheer and jeer guys that they seem worthy. We're putting a little different bit of spin on that. John, you're back. I was just about to intro flying the W's, taking the L's. Just saying that, the bums, they have their segment of bums of the week. It's put down or salute people who have done good things in their space. So we'll do it here. If I don't know if you can hear me. Do you got me, John?
Yeah, you're still breaking up a little bit,
All right.
but
I'll
kind of
continue
coming
on
in
with
now.
mine. They're both ouncers. I Flat W should come as no surprise is one Mr. Cruz getting inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame for the Quincy Frick Award. An honor that's long overdue for him. He's been since 1996, and I was just talking with a buddy.
Man, lost him again. He was just talking about Pat Hughes. Pat Hughes, our guy, just if anybody saw over the weekend, was inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame as a broadcaster, and he's been a incredible broadcaster for the Chicago Cubs on 670 The Score for many years. Great voice. Has worked with Ron Santo, worked with Ron Coomer now. Gave a great speech. If anybody hasn't seen it, I would definitely recommend going to look up the speech. It was phenomenal. So it's been really great to see him win. But while Mike tries to get back on so we could finish this up, I'm going to go through my flying the W's and taking the L. So, I'm going to start with taking the L first. We know that we were just kind of talking about the Michaelis situation. So I'm actually going to say that taking the L was Mike Michaelis. He obviously, if anybody didn't see the game, this happened in the first inning on Thursday's game, which was the first game of the 4-game series against the Cardinals. Ian Happ took a swing. On the backswing, he hit ex-Cubs catcher Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras was, knocked down for a bit. He was bleeding from the head. They had to pause the game. Ian Happ paused, watched, make sure he was okay. Went up, they hugged. Wilson actually had to leave the game from bleeding because they couldn't get it to stop. And he hugged him. So it was really, it looked like by all accounts that was done. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't on purpose. There was no maliciousness behind it. It was a clear accident. The very next pitch, Michaelis throws a 94 four-seamer high and tight, misses Happ his hands by maybe about 6 inches. Message sent. At that point, if you're into the old unwritten rules of baseball, message sent, that should have been done. Let's move on. No warnings were given. I think everyone kind of knew, like, okay, that's, we're done there, right? Very next pitch after that, he goes again inside, hits him with the 94 mile per hour in his backside. At that point, umps get together, they talk, they clearly found that there was some intent given, and they threw him out. So not only was that, for me, like a total bum for that, you tried to make the point throwing inside once, you do it again. And then, the Cardinals broadcast, including Chip Carey, were throwing fits. They were whining and crying, saying that they shouldn't have thrown him out, that he should have been given a warning. But the MLB new rules clearly indicate if you are showing intent and the umps agree that there was intent, they can throw you out. And they did. And it was the right call. Michaelis, not only did he, look like a complete bum in that game, but he also screwed that team because at that point, Ian goes to first. They get a couple more guys on base. The Cubs scored 3 runs in the first inning and go on to win that game 10-3. They were using I believe a prospect that just got called up just into the major leagues. He actually had to get sent down because they had to make a roster move to bring somebody else back up because he had gone 2 games, 45 pitches each game. So not only that, but you're ruining somebody's chance to in the majors. But hey, Mike, just talking about Michaelis here as my taking the L. So I was just talking about how not only was he a bum for throwing inside, but how it screwed some of St. Louis's players because they had a prospect that was called up. He had pitched 45 pitches the game before the Cubs. He had to pitch another 45 pitches in the game that Michaelis got thrown out of. I think you're on mute right now. There you go. You there?
Yep, you got me now.
Yeah, so they actually had to send this prospect back down. He had the opportunity to be in the major leagues and got sent down because Michaelis makes, an asinine move and then gets suspended on top of it because clearly he showed intent. So that is my taking the L for the week, and I heard your flying the W is Pat Hughes. My flying the W is the fan base. Said it at the beginning of the cast, this is the first time that we are not sellers. Since I believe 2020. Yeah, 2020.
And to be fair, who knows if that was a full season, if we would have been or not. And
yeah, right.
But and again, didn't really have a chance to be at those games. But still, first time in a decent amount of time that fans have been at Wrigley and have been able to come and support the team, and they know what's going on, and support's been there. I'm sorry for stepping all over your fly the W. If you want to go ahead and reiterate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the fan base, man. I mean, it's exciting. It's the first time, like I said, in, I don't know, 3 years now that we actually have a team that looks like they can compete for a division. Again, I don't have any expectations that they're going to be a World Series contender by any means, and I think, like we said, this is just opening up the window at this point again. We know baseball's all about opening and closing windows, but
exactly.
I think that this, they have an opportunity to add some pieces intelligently, add incrementally, and eventually let's see what they can do. You never know if you got a starting staff that gets hot in baseball. Hey, we saw the 2005 White Sox, right? I don't mean to, make some parallels here, but I mean, if you get a hot starting staff going into, the playoffs, anything can happen in baseball, right? So, and this team is built on defense and pitching, which we all see it bodes well in the playoffs. So, just got to get in.
Exactly. Just got to get in. Aside from my internet taking the L tonight, what I was originally going to go with is kind of tied to Miles Michaelis throwing at Ian Happ and getting ejected and suspended and making a complete ass out of himself. Another guy connected to the Cardinals who made a complete ass out of himself that I am giving the L to is a former Chicago Cubs broadcaster, Chip Carey, who after it all happened, if you didn't see the Cardinals feed of the entire incident, he basically made a comment saying that, now the message has been sent to Ian Happ. What message do you need to send on what is very clearly an accident? And Wilson Contreras was fine with it too. He didn't have any bitter feelings. So why in the world does a message need to be sent for something where the person who was on the receiving end of it? Yes, I was one of those people on Tuesday, Baloney. Thank you very much. Yeah, but the person who was on the receiving end of it, he didn't have any hard feelings towards Happ. Michaelis, I obviously you said what you said about him, but there was no message that needed to be sent. It was very clearly an accident. And then, to react the way that he did, assuming that it would just be a warning after it was 2 blatant pitches thrown at Ian Happ by Miles Michaelis. He was begging to be thrown out of that game.
Yeah.
100%. And saying have a little feel for the game and everything. Chip, you have a little feel for the game. Like this is 2023. This isn't 1995 anymore, where like
fair,
this stuff happens regularly.
yeah. To be fair, Chip Carey has never had a feel for the game, so I think you're asking for a lot from Chip Carey. I mean, he was rough. I mean, like I know we had him in Chicago
really
for all
was.
those years, but he was rough. Steve Stone carried Chip Carey, so
He truly did, and well, and his last name carried him too.
Yeah,
The
right.
fact that his grandfather was Harry, yeah, you know, because I think the plan was in '98 for like them to be a 3-man boot together before Harry passed away,
Yeah.
as kind of a way to transition Chip in there. But you know, we saw it ourselves. You know, it was an ugly ending with him in 2004 in his last year here. Like I think no pun intended, he's always had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder against the Cubs.
Yeah. Baloney's saying that we can have Steve Stone back, which I'd be fine with. I love Steve Stone.
I
actually
like Steve Stone, but I'm far enough removed from him where like I'm fine with JD. I you know, we might get in on this on a future podcast, but there are some ways that I think Marquee is kind of mishandling their broadcast, but they, you know, for the most, like JD has been here for what 10-ish years now.
Yeah.
You know, I've come to really like him, and you know, I don't really miss Steve Stone, especially if he's seemingly, you know, getting in fights with fans on Twitter and telling players that they should eat a salad every now and then.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I get it. I actually, but from a baseball perspective, baseball mind, I think Steve Stone actually, I didn't mind him. I like Steve Stone, but I get it. But, you know, thank you for everyone for sticking with us for episode number 1. You know, we obviously had some technical difficulties, which we'll sort out. We'll get, we're going to try to upgrade Mike from that Southside Bum Wi-Fi internet so we can get some better Wi-Fi. I run Ethernet, man. So if you have a chance to run some Ethernet, I try to limit any issues, and maybe it's just because I do it for work. But you know, appreciate
sure.
everyone jumping on. You know, we obviously are going to try to do this weekly. You know, usually we're planning to do these on Mondays, but Mike, you're going somewhere tomorrow. Where are you going?
I am both tomorrow and Tuesday night. I will be in attendance at Wrigley for Cubs Reds. Can't wait. Pivotal series, you know, 2 teams like fighting it out for the division lead. Obviously, Milwaukee's leading right now, but they're right on the doorstep with them. So, you know, should be, you know, this is what we were hoping for at the start of this year, that like we would get meaningful games after the trade deadline, and you know, we're we're luckily getting them, folks.
Yeah, four games against the Reds this week. We know that there's another series right after that where we have to play Atlanta, and then we go over to New York. So we've got a lot of games against the AL East this week, you know, but we got to take care of business in the division. Winning 3 out of 4 in St. Louis was a great start. Got to win another 3 out of 4 against Cincinnati, as we're 4 games back. Can't split, can't lose the series, can't lose ground. So it's going to be a big series, and it's going to be interesting to see how Cubs pitching stacks up against that young Reds lineup. I think Reds pitching is hittable, so the Cubs are going to have to pick it up offensively after today, but got to take at least 3 out of 4.
Think is this going to be the first time the Cubs are going to see Elly De La Cruz? Did he play at all the last time? Okay, nope. Well, so that'll be exciting. I mean, I'm nervous about that, but is this podcast brought to you by Naperville and Sperry's and Dave Matthews? Come on, Spo. Jesus Christ. Yes, I live out in the suburbs. No, I don't live in Naperville. And I fucking hate the Dave Matthews Band for what it's worth, okay?
All right. Well, hey, Mike, appreciate it for working through everything. And, you know, we'll talk next week. Hopefully you bring some good juju over to the north side of this week and take some games against Cincinnati. Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you all for sticking with us on our debut episode of Bums in the Bleachers.
Appreciate it, y'all.